Welcome and thank you for joining me for this introductory presentation about MetroAE. MetroAE is the Nuage Networks Metro automation engine that is used for installation and upgrade. My name is Brian Castelli. I am the lead developer for the product, and I'd like to take you through just kind of a high-level overview of what we have going on. So today we're going to talk about these things so that you can get a high-level understanding. We will also provide you with ways to get more information and more detail about MetroAE. So the reason we developed MetroAE is that our goal was to replace the manual steps that are required for doing an install or an upgrade with automatic steps so that you can do things faster, more consistently, more reliably, and in a repeatable fashion. So some of the things that we offer as part of the MetroAE is the fact that we do a prerequisite check before we do any operations to verify that there's a high likelihood of success. We also will execute health checks after to verify that what we've done is correct. We offer a declarative model, and what that means is that you specify what you want, not how to get it done. So you say, this is what I want, and then we figure out how to make it so. So that's our job. When we developed MetroAE, we designed it in a flexible building block fashion so that you can do either like an install everything operation, which is like a single command that does a whole bunch of things, or you can drill down and work on individual components or individual subsets for those components. And we'll talk a bit more about that as we go through here. Our commitment to you is that MetroAE is supported, tested, and has ongoing development. And what that means is we're going to continuously adding new features. As the product feature set expands, so do we. We also run automated tests each and every day to verify that MetroAE is operating as expected. And we have made a commitment to follow the Nuage Networks release train. So when new releases of the software come out, we upgrade MetroAE to match. The platform itself is built on Ansible and Python, but we've worked very hard to make sure that you don't need to know either one. So don't worry, if you're not a developer, if you're not familiar with Ansible, you can still use the platform easily and successfully. The input format is YAML files. It's a text format, industry standard, very easy to understand. You provide the values, we do the rest. We organize these YAML files into directories called deployments. So you can have multiple deployments, one for each data center, one for each SD-WAN remote site. Whatever it is you need to do, we can support that. We have more than 550 users currently registered to have access to MetroAE, so it's quite popular. Among those registered, we show customers, partners. We see that it's being deployed in Nokia and Nuage Networks labs. We also see that it's deployed in the field by Nokia and Nuage Networks personnel into customer labs, proof of concept situations, and in production. The component mix includes all of the core components of the Nuage Network software stack. For example, the VSD in either standalone, cluster, geo-redundant cluster format. We do all of that. The VSC you can deploy in either a standalone configuration or in as many pairs as you'd like. The stats node, Elasticsearch, we call it vstat in our code. Standalone, cluster, or active standby clusters. In the VCS or data center product, we also support the deployment of vSyn for the VMware environment and VRS. Now the VRS, I've got to make a note that it does not support automatic integration with OpenStack. For that, we suggest that you use the Nuage Networks integration team's work for installing with OpenStack. On VNS or SD-WAN, we support the deployment of the virtual NSGs, NSGVs, including a bootstrap of those. The NUH, a network utility hub, which has the proxy for either standalone or HA configurations. We also support the proxy, the proc only version of the proxy, which is the VNS utils, and we also can deploy the SD-WAN portal. All of these can be deployed onto various target platforms or hypervisors, including KVM, VMware, OpenStack, and AWS. When it comes time to consume MetroAE, you have to decide which platform or which way you want to consume the platform. We offer a container version, which gives you the advantages of having an environment that is isolated from the server itself. When the container is running, there's also a REST API available so that you can more easily integrate MetroAE with existing orchestration tools. And we copy the deployments, the documentation, the example files all onto a directory on your host, so you don't have to get inside the container. If you choose to use the GitHub clone, which is also very popular, the environment actually gets established on the server, so you create what we call an Ansible server, and we provide a script that helps you with that. When you're running in this fashion, there is no REST API, and in this case the deployment and image files and examples are also on disk, and the deployments can be anywhere. In either case, you operate MetroAE exactly the same way. MetroAE install everything, for example. The procedure for consuming is roughly equivalent. There's an installation step. On the container you install Docker, and the git clone you either do a git clone or you download the zip file from GitHub. Then you, on the container side, you install the MetroAE RPM, which is available as part of the repo, and then you run the MetroAE setup command, and that pulls down the latest Docker container, starts the container while mounting that local file system that I referred to earlier, and it copies all of the deployment examples and documentation into that mounted local file system so that they're available for you on disk. The setup step on the clone is to run the MetroAE setup script, and it will then install all of the dependencies, including Ansible, and get everything set up and running. Then when it's time to do an update on the container, it's pretty easy. A MetroAE update, and that will pull down the latest container and replace the one that you're running. All of those files that you have on disk are not touched, so that you can continue to use the same deployments. You don't have to recreate any of that stuff. You don't have to back it up. We'll take care of that. And then for the git clone, it's pretty easy also. Git pull, so that just pulls down the latest when you want to upgrade. In terms of the flexibility that we have built in for the installation operation, you can install everything by saying MetroAE space install everything. And what that will do is it will look into the deployment that you have created, and it will install all of the components that you have specified. It's smart enough to skip the components that are not specified. You can also install components one at a time by executing something like MetroAE install VSDs. And then Metro is smart enough to say, okay, regardless of what has been defined in the deployment, the user wants me to just install the VSDs, and so that's what it will do. The installation of each component is further broken down into 3 steps: a pre-deploy step, a deploy step, and a post-deploy step. The pre-deploy step is responsible for checking prerequisites and instantiating VMs. The deploy step is responsible for installing software on those VMs and establishing services and a connectivity. The post-deploy step is used for kind of a sanity check and to check end-to-end connectivity. So those are the ways that you have to choose from in terms of how you deploy. Upgrade follows a very similar model. You can say MetroAE upgrade everything, or you can say MetroAE upgrade, in this case, VSCs, and then it will be smart enough to say, oh, I'm just going to do the VSCs. We also have a step-by-step upgrade, which is documented in our documentation, and you can walk through and do one step at a time all of the steps that are outlined in the upgrade procedure you'll find in the documentation. MetroAE also supports some other workflows that are handy. for you to be able to do the other things that you need to do. For example, when you access the files, the image files from ALED, they come down as tar.gz files. We have a MetroAE Nuage unzip workflow that will unzip those files and make them ready for Metro to use. We also provide a destroy workflow, and the destroy workflow is useful because we're going for a model where you can use Metro to deploy, where you can do it, you can undo it, and you can redo it. So we want to be able to say, hey, I just installed a VSD, it isn't quite what I wanted, things aren't working the way I wanted, I need to make a change to my deployment. You do a destroy, and then you just reinstall. So that's the kind of an environment we're going for. We also provide health checks in the workflow, so you can at any time do a health check of the components and verify that they're working correctly. An advanced feature that we recently implemented is something we call hooks and skip actions. Hooks are designated places in the code where we will execute whatever command you ask a step to execute. So for example, if you have a special script that you want to run at a particular time during the installation or during the upgrade, you can tell us to execute that on your behalf. That allows you to interleave custom scripts. Maybe your customer has certain things that they want to execute along with Metro, so we can interleave those together automatically using that feature. Skip actions are simply ways that you can designate there are certain things that you don't want Metro to do. So for example, we have customers who use Terraform, for example, to instantiate their own VMs, and then they use Metro to take over from there. So Metro would skip, we would use the skip action to say, Metro, skip the pre-deploy step, and then just jump right to the deploy step. This is also helpful for environments where in a customer's lab they have one group that's responsible for VM instantiation and a different group that's responsible for the Nuage Network software install. This also helps them there. The inputs can be provided in 3 different ways. It's always YAML, but you can choose to either edit the YAML file yourself, and we provide examples and we do validation that the YAML is well formed, so we can let you know if there's any problems there. We are also now shipping with a command line wizard. When you execute the command line wizard, it checks the environment, verifies that Ansible and everything else for Metro has been installed, and then it asks you a series of questions where it can gather the host names, IP addresses, and so on for the components that you want, and then we create the YAML for you. A third method of input is the CSV file, and that is you create a spreadsheet, save it as CSV, and then we will use the CSV data to create the YAML on your behalf. There is a sample spreadsheet CSV file that is delivered along with Metro, so you can see exactly what that's supposed to look like. Our examples directory is populated with an extensive collection of different examples of how to do things, either for the different platforms like KVM and vCenter, or for data center and SD-WAN. So we provide examples that you can use as starting places. We also provide blank deployments, which are just every file in there, so that you can see the full breadth of what needs to be done in terms of deployments. We also have a few folks who take advantage of some deployment templates that we provide, and what these are really Jinja 2 files in YAML format that you can use to automatically generate the deployment files on the fly. So we have at least one customer who uses this function. They've written a little Python, they invoke Jinja 2, they provide their input data, and they allow Metro to go ahead and create those deployments automatically. You always know when using the template that it's well formed. In terms of encryption, we never want to see clear text passwords showing up in inventory files or log files or anything like that. So we have a credentials.yaml file where we ask you to provide custom usernames and passwords. So for example, if you do VSD hardening and you disable root access to the VSD but you want to do an upgrade, we can allow you through the credentials.yaml file to provide us with the custom username and password for the VSD. Then if you use Ansible Vault, which has industry standard encryption technology, we will then encrypt that data and then decrypt it at runtime. It will never appear in logs or on the screen. When you start to use MetroAE, there are ways that you can access help from us. So we have a website. It's devops.nuagenetworks.net. If you point your browser there, you will be able to follow the link to request access and then ask for access to the Nuage Metro repo. We also have documentation on the GitHub, and also that gets delivered with the container on disk. And there are issues that can be filed if you have any trouble. There's a YouTube playlist available where you can watch videos like this one that tell you a little bit about how to do specific things. And you can also send email to us at devops@nuagenetworks.net. That mail comes to me and to all the members of my team, and we will respond quickly. So thank you very much for joining me today, and I appreciate your time and attention.